Hey guys, it's Mandy. You know I love Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, and one of the things I love the most is they're always doing new things. And I recently tried their new sports massage, and I've got to tell you, it's incredible. So you know I'm active and I'm always focused on wellness, and this is just one more thing that I am adding in to my routine because now I'm hooked. They use the Theragun, which of course is going to help increase blood flow to certain areas and muscles that might be sore or tired or need attention, but you also get to add on another upgrade. You know, whenever I was there, I chose to go ahead and do the cup gliding as well as the hot stones. They work really well with the Theragun, maybe like a triple threat. Definitely ask for it the next time you go in to Hand and Stone. Ask about the sports massage. You can book your appointment today online at handandstonetyler.com, or you can stop by and see them. They're located in South Tyler in the Cumberland Shopping Center.
Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, hosted by Mandee Montana, a podcast that celebrates women, their stories, their struggles, and ability to overcome. Conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, and courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast, presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. With over 20 massage therapists and 6 estheticians, certified and trained in multiple protocols, you can get an affordable massage or facial located right here in the East Texas area. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Montana with my special guest today, Melanie Thomas.
Hello, everybody. It's so exciting to be here today.
So, Melanie, I've known you for years. We recently reconnected, and I discovered that you're working with an organization or for an organization that I've partnered with in the past that I love dearly, For the Silence. And I thought it would be really interesting to hear your perspective on it because you're a licensed professional counselor, right?
Yes, I am. Wasn't always. And that's what I love to tell people. How did I get here? Because everybody wants to know, how did you get here of all places? And I was a school teacher for 22 years. And I loved it. But the thing I loved most about teaching was not the math and science or the state testing. It was the relationship with kids and my parents, right? And staff. And you know, Mandy, in the school system, there's always challenges. I like that, challenges. In fact, we always encourage our teachers to say challenges and not problems, right? It's challenges. And so that part is what drove me, like, to just love my job as a teacher. And then I got to a place in my life where I had done all these different roles as a teacher, including working with the gifted and talented pull-out program and all these things. And I am a person of change. I do, after about 7 years, I'm ready to do something new. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I want to be a school counselor. Like, I want to be that person. I don't want to teach the math. And let's face it, math was getting really hard.
It's changed over the years.
It is so changed. Yes, I'm really glad that my daughter's dad was a good math science person because that is not my forte. I could do long division, multiplication, all this, but when you have to start drawing boxes and doing all these special things just to come up with your answer, why can't we just do step 1, 2, 3? Yeah, it wasn't for me. So anyway, long story short, too late. I decided to be a school counselor. And at that time, when I went back to get my master's in school counseling, I learned that I could just take a few additional courses and be a licensed professional counselor. So I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Even if I wanted to be a school counselor and never do anything else, it would just be better for me and my experience, right? And I was fortunate to be at Dr. Brian C. Jack Elementary, where we at the time had 2 assistant principals and a principal. So I was able to do my job. Like, I got to counsel. I didn't have to be responsible for all these administrative tasks because we had administration, but we had 800 kids. So I did guidance lessons and some individual and refer them out if, they needed it. And then lo and behold, Jackie Cannon, if you're listening, I got to do a shout out to Jackie Cannon. She is an amazing woman. Speaking of amazing women here in the community that has done many things. She reached out to me and said, I've got a proposition for you. And I'm like, really? What is it? She said, I want you to be the counselor for Champions for Children. She was the director there at the time. And I was like, Jackie, I've got one more year here at Jack, and I've already told Brett that. And but I also had a daughter in college, right? Mm-hmm. Single mom, putting her daughter through school, wanted to do sorority, all the big things. And, sororities are expensive, Mandee. So just so happened, God's timing, which amazes me every time. Mm-hmm. I looked at my numbers. I could retire with full retirement. My principal was backing me up because he said at this school, we are Leader in Me campus, and we grow leaders.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
And he's like, and that's
true
why
leadership.
Right?
Yeah.
And he said, that's why we have turnover here, because our teachers don't just stay, they're growing and moving into admin and this and that and other things and for the district and other districts. We've got a superintendent now at a small nearby town. It's just, he believed in growth. And so I had his support. And so with his support, I did it. And then I started doing private practice as well because I wanted to help not just children and the parents, but I wanted to help everybody.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I got on fire for that and was doing private practice and loving it. And then Jackie Cannon calls me again. Oh, no, that Jackie Cannon, she's something else. And so she calls me again and she says, okay, I know that you're doing private practice and you may not be interested, but another organization needs you. And I said, really? Let me hear about it. And girlfriend, it was for the silent. Yes. And she told me it was for sex trafficked victims and their families.
A new challenge.
A new challenge. A capital C challenge, exclamation mark.
I feel like you should capitalize all those letters.
Right, yes. I think you're right. Let's just put it in bold, capped, underline,
italics.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's shout it from the rooftops. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. And I'll be honest, my knee-jerk reaction was, I don't know about that. Because it's
heavy.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mandee. Think about it. Anxiety, depression, eating disorders, relationship issues, behavioral issues, parenting. Those things are big in themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of that.
In most people.
Most people. Like, hello, not to give myself a plug, and not even just for, my business, but for anybody out there. Seek someone to talk to, right?
Mental health care.
Mental health is important.
Yes.
It should be at the top of the list. It's just like being a member at a gym. Mm-hmm. And if you don't seek an actual professional counselor, take time for yourself to visit with friends, with spiritual leaders, with whatever it is. We live in a stressful time, and it's important to take care of yourself. Self-care is so important, because if you don't have your mental health, how can you help and care for those around you and those you care about? You can't. It just is. You give and you give and you give. We end up depleted, and we've got to find a way to fill in that emotional bank account, or you're empty. And so, I know I tend to get off track there, Mandee, but, I think it's important
for anyone listening.
For anyone listening.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely important.
Yep.
So literally, I prayed about it. I literally prayed about it for almost 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. I had to make sure it was a good fit. And let me tell you, I had 6 questions I asked that director. Mm-hmm. She answered every single one of them exactly the way they needed to be answered. And I've told you before, Mandee, I don't believe things just happen. I believe they happen with a reason. Mm-hmm. And I believe there was purpose, and it became my purpose. And she has not let me down. In fact, that organization has been such a blessing, because I'm seeing change, Mandee. I'm seeing change. People don't realize what we've got going here in this town. Mm-hmm. I always say we're the city of roses, but we have its thorns.
Oh, we do.
Right?
That's a really good way to put that. And I think this would be a good opportunity to talk just a little bit about the mission of For the Silent, because I can speak to it a little bit, but I feel like you're doing it day to day.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
what is the mission of For the Silent?
All right. Very good question, Mandee. The bottom line is that we want to end sex exploitation, right?
Yes.
And we offer a variety of things. That's what I love about this place. We work with kids that are at risk. So maybe they haven't been sex trafficked yet, but they have those adverse child experiences that put them at risk. Just because your kid doesn't have those adverse risks doesn't mean that they can't get involved too.
Right.
Right? Like, I'll give you an example. We love to say that a lot of times people think of sex trafficking as the white van that pulls up, right?
I think that's the first thing most of us think of because it's what we were taught when we were kids to avoid that.
The white
stranger
van
danger.
pulls up, stranger danger, pulls you off the street.
Yes.
You're end up being missing, right? You're missing. There's flyers out there, and they've taken you to another state, another country, and you're lost forever. Right? And or the pimp with the big fur coat and the purple hat and the
stereotypical images. Sure.
Stereotypical images. And that's what's scary, Mandee, is because that is not the case. Let me tell you, I've got a family that has several girls. They were brought up in a Christian home, have family game night, all the things, right? Like, taught their kids right from wrong. They've become a victim of this.
Oh, no.
Yes. And you go, how?
Yeah.
How did this happen? Well, let me tell you how it happens. These kids now have so many connections through the internet. We don't need a white van anymore, Mandee. All you need is access to social media. That's how easy. How scary is that?
Yeah.
All of our kids have phones, right?
Most of them, yeah.
Most of them do. iPads, they're gaming. Even schools are distributing Chromebooks and things, right?
Right.
Parents think, oh, they're just gaming. Well,
and that may be the kid's intention.
Exactly.
But then a predator arrives.
Yes. Pretending to be their age, having their interests, checks them out on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, just sees who their friends are, what school they go to. It's amazing how much information they can get from a kid's just profile, right? And the little bits and pieces they share. So they form a relationship. They literally form this relationship. Some of them get romantically involved. They feel like they've got this 14-year-old little boyfriend that's just crazy about them. And come on, what girl doesn't want to feel beautiful and loved and cherished? I mean, I'm 56 years old. I love that, right? Who doesn't?
Yeah, everyone loves attention.
Everybody loves attention.
Sure.
And so you don't have to come from a bad home to want attention.
Right.
I mean, you don't.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, they get hooked. It's hook, line, and sinker. And once they form that relationship, that bond, then there's the trust. Yes, there's the trust. And with that trust opens a whole can of worms.
That's when the exploitation happens.
That's when the exploitation happens. And they fall in love. Send me a pic of your parts. No. And that's another thing, Mandee. People ask me, at what age should we tell our children about, because a lot of people don't want to go there. They don't want to talk about sex. It's uncomfortable.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I had a parent one time that got real upset because her second grader, I was doing drug prevention. And I'm the reason now TISD has this implemented drug plan, and I'm proud of it. And I don't regret what I did, because I'm very honest with my kids. I've always been very honest and open. And I think kids need to know street names, because I don't think everybody uses on the streets marijuana.
They don't.
Pot or weed or I mean, they use a variety of things, right? And so, yes, I shared the different names with second grader. Mom thought they were too young to hear that. But what I tried to explain was we had a third grader in Holly Tree that had just been busted with marijuana.
Whoa.
So, a third grader. So, yes, I think kids need to be taught. And it's best coming from parents so you can share your family values, right?
Yes.
Like, we don't believe that this is healthy. We do not believe this is a good choice. This is illegal. We want you to be aware. I'm not saying scare your kids.
Right.
I'm saying, but make them aware.
And let them ask questions.
And you be the one to answer them, because if you don't,
another kid will.
Yes, another kid will. And it won't be necessarily right. And when we started about 8 years ago with Play It Safe in the district, we were having to get parent permission. Mm-hmm. Well, on my side of it, I'm thinking, if there's something going on in my household, God forbid, but it happens. I mean, we know that there are parents out there, boyfriends or step-parents or even bio parents, that are sexually molesting their children.
Yeah.
That's a huge pill to swallow. It's hard to even say out loud.
Yeah,
okay? But it's happening. Mm-hmm. I've had to report it. Happens. And so I don't like the idea that people have to sign off permission, because those kids are probably the ones that need to hear it more than anybody.
Right.
Right? But I think that's changed over the years. I really do hope it has. But I would say, as soon as you can have a real conversation with your kids, and they know private parts, they know that we cover up our private parts. And I like to use a doll with the bathing suit.
Yep.
And we talk about that.
Simple.
Real simple. You don't have to go into all the things.
No, but these are the areas that we keep covered.
Yeah, that we keep covered. And no one should touch, take a picture of, or look at those parts. That's, and for no good reason. You know, if you're hurt and mommy needs to look at it, absolutely. If you need help with bathing, if you go to the doctor and you need a shot, yes. But you have these conversations, because another thing that's happening are kids are being abused. They're going to school, and when the teacher's not looking, and as much as they try, I've been in the classroom, parents think, well, where was the teacher? Why was the teacher not aware? Well, maybe the teacher was giving a small group attention to helping them with the reading, and she's got stations around the room. Her eyes can't be everywhere at once.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the teacher's fault that the kid is in the reading corner and doing something inappropriate.
No.
But that's what happens. Mm-hmm. And so a little girl comes home from school and says, Mommy, so-and-so touched my private part, or wanted me to show my private part. These things happen.
Yeah.
And so I think early awareness is key. So long way around it, prevention is one of the things that For This Island does.
Right.
Okay.
And awareness.
Awareness and prevention. Awareness and prevention. Because if we can make people aware and we can create prevention, then we don't have the problem. Right? So that's step number one.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we do have people that there is a problem, and we've got to address it.
And it's more significant than a lot of people realize.
Oh, absolutely. Because it can happen so easily.
Right.
Through internet, gaming, and all these things. Parents, look at your kid's phone today. I had a 9-year-old that we, had some behaviors that the parents were like, this is concerning us. And the first thing I said was, what is she looking at on her phone? And these are educated, knowledgeable parents, but they just trust that their kid wouldn't even be interested. They're 9. They wouldn't be exposed to that. They looked at their friend contact, thinking it was just friends from school. There were 20 names they did not recognize.
Whoa.
20.
Well, kids are so naive.
No, they're so naive.
And trusting.
Yes. If someone says, will you be my friend, or I want you to be my friend, they're like, well, sure, right?
Yeah.
The more friends, the merrier. Yeah, they have no idea.
Especially if they're coming from a safe home, right?
Oh, yes.
A home where there's safety and trust and
love. They're not worried. They're not worried.
They're not going to expect somebody to treat them badly.
No. And then those kids that aren't in a safe home.
Then they're looking for attention.
They're looking for attention.
Thirsty for it.
Oh, they're so thirsty. And Mandee, some of them, it's out of desperation.
Sure.
They don't have the money to pay their bills. Some of them run away from home, don't have a place. They say, well, we have a place for you.
Right.
So they provide a hotel room, and it starts off very innocent, shelter. And, taking care of them, having their back. And then one thing leads to another.
Right.
And the next thing you know, you've got people knocking on the door, and you're expected to provide services to continue to have a shelter.
Oh, Melanie. That is heartbreaking. But it's happening. It's happening here.
Well, and this is the other thing, Mandee. If you think about it, a drug fix, drug dealers, Once they get their hand on a drug and they buy that drug and they sell it to make their profit, that drug is gone. But with someone being sex trafficked, they can make money over this person over and over and over again.
That is just...
It's horrible.
Yeah,
and you know
sickening.
what's real scary is, in Tyler, not since I've been at For This Island now, honestly, I don't even know if For This Island had anything to do with this whatsoever, but it's something that I know about, and I'm not sharing any, this has been on the news in the past, but a counselor that was providing services for a girl that had run off and had gotten trapped in this showed up where she was at a hotel as a client. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Her counselor showed up as a client.
So how do you know who to trust, Melanie?
You don't. Isn't that sad, Mandee?
Let's say you've got a parent that's hearing this and they're like, oh
my
my
gosh, right?
So I want to protect my kids. I'm going to have some conversations with them. Maybe they realize that their kiddo needs some counseling. So then where do you start? How do you vet that process as a parent?
Absolutely. Well, those are good questions, Mandee. And the bottom line is communication is key.
Okay.
You better be involved in your child's life. You might be busy with the day-to-days, your business and all that, but you better put some time. And you need to have some open-ended conversation. Not, how was your day? Good. Because you know what? Kids don't talk. Do you know that, Mandee?
Yeah.
They don't talk. They don't have conversations like you and I because they didn't grow up on the phone talking to friends on the phone.
Right.
They text. Oh, yeah. Everything's quick, short answer. And that would be one of my biggest complaints from my parents that come to me for counseling. They're like, oh, my gosh, I try to get involved. And they like roll their eyes and like, what? I'm fine. What do you. And we've got to learn how to communicate with our kids.
Yeah.
It's important. And I would say if you want to communicate with your kids, step one is validate their feelings because they don't think you get them. They don't think you can possibly understand. You remember when your parents didn't know anything and they weren't cool and oh my gosh, can't you just leave me alone? And it was like the more they prod, the more you poked, it's not a good system. So be sincere. When you're concerned, ask questions, but validate their feelings first and share with them. Try to cut out you, because that puts them on the defense.
Of course.
Just share with them your concerns. I'm hearing this is happening. It's going on. It really concerns me because victims are literally being attacked left and right through just innocent means. Like it starts off innocently and it would break my heart for that to happen to you.
Right.
And, I just want to make sure these things are in place. I'm not trying to control your every move.
Right.
Kids want to feel in control.
Sure.
But have those conversations. What do you think we should do? What do you think we could do to help make so it's collaborative? See, that's the difference. Kids don't want to be told what to do. You can tell them and the guy on the side, they are living under your roof. But you can do it in a way where they feel part of the process.
Right.
I think that's important. Have your kids feel a part of the process. And not that you're attacking them or accusing them, but that you care and you want to help them. And let them know, hey, if you get in trouble, any trouble, no matter what it is. I always told my daughter and her friends, if y'all are at a party and you make choices and you find yourself in a bad situation, call me.
Right.
Don't want anybody taking any risk. It's not worth it. I love you that much.
We'll deal with the repercussions later.
Yeah, safety first. So I think that's important. Communication is key. If you see that...
Do you think the key is questions?
Yes.
In communicating?
Yes. You've got to ask questions and listen.
And then maybe repeat some of the things that they're saying back to you and ask another question?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is very helpful. We've got to get away from these yes and no. Won't answer questions because that ends the conversation, right?
Right.
Yeah, we got to ask more. We need to ask more. And I guess my point I'm trying to make is making it more conversational and not that parent,
Lecture.
Lecture. Yes.
Yeah.
The lecture.
Yeah.
Because if you turn them off
They're not listening.
They're not listening. And that's the other thing. There's that whole human response, right? Mm-hmm. The fight, flight, or freeze. Once we get emotionally heated, either side, if parent attacks this emotionally or kids hear it emotionally, we're flipping our lid. And when we do that, our problem-solving part of our brain and our emotional part are not connecting.
Right.
And so that's when we're irrational. And that's when we react, and not always the best way.
Right.
And that's where counseling can help you learn how to self-regulate your emotions, because a lot of us weren't taught that. We're not taught that. Most people.
Not part of school's curriculum.
No. And that's important. And so I would say, do some activities like with your family. Walk, run, take those walks. We've got so many beautiful trails in Tyler.
We do.
Right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And this time of year especially is like the best with the fall leaves and all the things. Take those walks, get outside. We gotta start doing things, being more involved. Do some things with them that you don't like. Make some compromises, right?
Right. Because if you're not on their level, then that communication barrier is going to stay at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think care and concern, and if you do see some red flags, and what I mean by red flags, if you see that, you're concerned about the people they're hanging out with. I'd say majority of the kids are vaping these days.
Yeah.
And
that's like step one, behavioral issues.
Yes. Well, because now they're getting marijuana. They're vaping THC or what?
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
With these vapes. So it's not just nicotine.
Right.
I'm not advocating any of it. In fact, I'm mad because when that first came out, they made it like, oh, this isn't smoking. It's just a fruity little whatever to take the edge off. And it's a healthy choice. No, it's not.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've got a lot of kids in college and young adults that are addicted because when it first came out, this is what they believed.
Right.
And so...
And changing that belief is pretty difficult to do once they're addicted to it.
Yeah. Get your kid a nicotine patch. Do whatever you have to do. Sometimes solutions aren't ideal. It's not what we would want to advocate, but we got to be safe, right?
Right.
If your kid's having sex and they're having sex, a conversation about safe sex is important.
Right.
Absolutely. Is abstinence the best route? Absolutely. Do my personal values say wait until you get married? There's reasons for that? Absolutely. But come on, let's be real. What's happening?
What's actually happening?
What's actually happening? And that's the thing, Mandee. We got to be real, people. Open your eyes and address it. We can't put it. I tell clients all the time, the more you put under the rug, the more you're going to get tripped up. Because eventually, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to try to go across that rug, and guess what? You're falling over it. You're tripping. You're busting it. You're landing flat on your back because you didn't be proactive and you didn't get ahead of it. Hiding from it, avoiding it, which a lot of us do. It's a natural, that is a coping mechanism, avoidance. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, or just flat out not thinking about it. Just choosing to not believe it or see it. If you see it, you better address it.
Yep. So let's say someone's like, oh my gosh, my eyes have been opened. I've got to deal with some things. What's their first step? Do they look for a counselor? If they feel like it's extreme, do they contact For the Silent?
Absolutely contact us. And this is the great thing about For the Silent. If our program, which by the way, we never got to all the things we offer.
Right.
Prevention, awareness, like we're doing a class called Not a Number. I think it would be so great for every teenage girl out there because it teaches you what to look for and what to be careful of and all those things. That's called Not a Number. That's amazing. We're also providing equine therapy. People that have been through significant trauma have a hard time processing that trauma and have a hard time going there and feeling. The avoidance coping mechanism, right? Like they are so shut down. They've got to get in touch with their feelings. And equine therapy is such a beautiful way to do that. So we offer that as well. And then, of course, individual counseling, which is what I do. We can point you in the right direction to someone that can.
Right.
I have so many counselor friends in the area that are phenomenal. working with all ages. I mean, I just want to give them shout outs, you know, off the top of my head, Whitney Briggs, Alexis Combis, Chris Henry, Joanna Etzel. I mean, the list goes on and on. So there are therapists out there. Now, granted, there are waiting lists because
there's such a great need.
There's such a great need.
Yep.
But don't give up. And another thing, Mandee, if someone tries therapy, and a lot of people, I've talked to them and they'll say, you know, I tried it once and
I'm so glad you're talking about this because it's so important. Some people are just not the right fit for you.
No.
So you try again with someone else.
Yes. Don't give up. It's like your medication, right? Like, I mean, I don't think everyone needs to be on medicine, but a lot of us do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But especially an antidepressant, since we're talking about mental health. Sure. If one doesn't work for you, you don't just give up. You try something different. Now, I believe, of course, therapy, medication if needed. Okay. I also believe it can be overly abused and overdiagnosed and all those things. But I believe there are some things that go hand in hand. Yeah. You've got to be fit emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Whatever that spiritual component is, I'm not telling you what to believe in, who to believe in. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Hey, give him a shout out. That's my personal belief. I'm not going to judge you if you don't believe that, right? I'm going to pray for you, but I'm not going to judge you. That's not what therapy is about.
Right.
Therapy is about meeting people where they are without judgment and helping them to see. It's not even my place to tell you what to do. My place is to help you see what your options are based on what your goals are. What do you want? And how are we going to get there? Yep. And I'm there to help you figure that out. Right. That's the big thing. That's the big picture. I'm there to cheer you on.
I think that's such a really good call out because I feel like there's often a misconception that if you go to therapy, maybe you're going to get lectured about how you can live a better life. You know, and my experience has never been that way. My experience has been much more like what you described, where you go in and initially there's a lot of questions about, well, what are you looking for? What do you want? And honestly, Melanie, I don't think people slow down long enough to ask themselves that question on a regular basis. And it's necessary. Not just for families, but individuals too.
Absolutely.
You know, and kids probably get asked that question a lot more than adults stop and ask themselves that question. But it can be a really good guidepost for, I mean, you've talked about every 7 years you've looked for a new challenge, right?
Right, exactly.
But that's probably because you've stopped in your life at some point and said, what does Melanie want for me? And knowing your faith, probably also, what is God calling me to do?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I believe everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
In fact, we were talking about that earlier, Mandee, how, you know, sometimes things don't make sense in the moment.
Absolutely.
And then on down the road, the path was so clear. Like you look at your journey and go, oh my gosh, look at all the things that were lined up to get me to where I am today.
Yeah.
Right?
This is going to be cheesy, but I grew up listening to Garth Brooks, the song Unanswered Prayers.
Yes.
Right? I think of that sometimes as God's protection. Sometimes when we're not given the answer that we thought we wanted, he's really protecting us from something that we're unaware of.
Absolutely.
So it's like, just trust the process.
Trust it.
Just trust that
Go
next
with
door
it.
is going to be
Yes.
opened and then you're going to know he's calling you to walk through it.
Yeah. And that's what really gives us peace of mind.
Yes.
You know, in the bigger picture. I'm so grateful for that too. Because a lot of people don't have that, Mandee. You know, and I can't imagine living in a world without hope. Hope is having only positive expectations. Don't you love
that acronym?
Yes.
Having only positive expectations. I do.
Yeah. Because too many times we allow assumptions and the what ifs to take over. And 90% of what we worry about never happens, Mandee.
I know.
90%. That is a lot of wasted energy.
It really is. When you could be working towards something or blessing someone in some way.
Yes. We got to let that go. Let's drop some rocks, people. Drop them. Get them off. Lighten your load.
I love that.
Lighten your load.
Yes.
Life is hard enough.
It is.
If it doesn't bring you joy, let it go. That's another thing I say. You're not going to make everybody happy no matter what you do, and your list is never going to be completed. Do what you can and accept that some days are going to be better than others. Some days you're going to be a rock star, and some days, you know what?
I got through it.
Yeah, you got through it. You did it.
Yeah.
You know, let's be okay with that. Give ourselves some grace.
I think grace is the key there.
Yeah. Give ourselves some grace.
Well, this has been absolutely delightful. I could talk to you for hours.
I know. I could talk to you too all day, every day.
Yes. I would love for you to come back. Is
I'd
there
love it.
any, I mean, you've dropped a lot of really good nuggets, but is there any other thing that you want to leave with today?
You know, keep the faith. Just don't give up. Whatever it is, if the plan doesn't work, right? You change the plan, not the goal. I think it's very important that we do take the time to stop and reflect. Where are we? Where's my family? Do we need help? Maybe you don't need outside help. Maybe you just need to pull together a little bit. You know, it's important. It's so easy to get caught up in the worldly things. We live in such I think of it as a rat wheel. You know, we're just running.
Yeah.
From one thing to the other. And you said it yourself, Mandee. A lot of times we just don't stop and think. Where are we?
Or feel. Yeah. It's that avoidance. We live in that space of avoidance. We live in that
space. And
it's real easy when we're scrolling.
Oh, absolutely. Right?
Yes.
And girl,
I'm guilty of it too. That's the only reason I'm saying it.
And me too. Some days the only way I feel like I can really stop and look at what I've accomplished is by my list.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people. I have a list in my phone. I have sticky notes on my desk. And if I do something and it's not written down, I will go back and add it and mark it out just so I can see. Look at what's happening. I am getting things accomplished. I am moving forward. It's not going to all happen today.
Right.
And that's okay. We've got to be patient.
Yep.
And I think we live in a world of instant gratification, and I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
I don't plant seeds and watch them grow in the flower beds. Now, I do plant seeds on a daily basis, I hope, with clients. But, you know, I want to go buy the flowers that are already in their little, their little containers and put them in the ground and say, oh, look at my beautiful flower bed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But
that's a beautiful illustration.
Those flowers that you do end up planting with the seeds, and I've done this in different places in my flower beds, those are the hardiest flowers, and they come back year after year.
They multiply, don't they?
They multiply. So, yeah, I think there's some lessons to be taught by nature, Mandee.
For sure. For sure. Well, thank you so much for your message of hope and perseverance, Melanie. I love it. If somebody wanted to reach out and contact you or contact For the Silent, where would they do that?
You know what? All you have to do is Google forthesilent.org. Just Google, forthesilent.org. A lot of people think it's The Silent because we say For the Silent, but it is forthesilent.org, and it has our contact information. You just tell us what you need, and we will contact you back, and we'll get you some help. We'll point you in the right direction.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
You're so welcome, Mandee. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.
Hey guys, it's Mandee. Have you been struggling to lose those extra pounds? Oh, I know. I have totally been there. An extra, 15 to 20 pounds can totally creep up on you in perimenopause. Or at least it has with me. And I think I found it early. I hope it's not happening to you. But if it is, I've got the solution. You can lose up to 15 pounds in 8 days with an incredible product line that I found and I want to share with you. Get a custom product recommendation with a complimentary wellness screening in the show notes. Just click Zing with Mandee.